Okay, so it's Tuesday, April 7th, 2020, and it is a little bit after 2 o'clock. Now I'm here with a handful of the Lemos sisters. I have Frances Hale up there in the top left-hand corner, and then there's me, and then Liz Dickenson.
Correct.
And on the bottom left-hand is Mary Jerez, and then Clarisa Beck. And I sent each of you the consent form to participate in the interview, but due to the shelter-in-place order for the current COVID-19 pandemic, in lieu of signatures, I asked you each to email me your consent, and I've received that for each of you. So you each understand that this interview is voluntary and that the recording, the transcripts, and the summaries will be kept at California State University Channel Islands repository, as well as in the Strathern Historical Park and Museum archives in Simí Valley. And yes, we're all on board. Everybody's happy?
Yes.
Yes, but we're not going to be videoed.
If you don't want me to video you, turn off your video.
Okay.
Oh, I see.
Because I'm recording this now. So
Okay.
if you don't want your face on here, just turn off your video.
Okay.
Okay.
You see my roots?
What you didn't want to be on.
Oh, beautiful.
Look at my roots.
Are you going to
gonna
put makeup on and everything?
Are you going to stay on, Mary, or take off your? Are you going to remove your video?
So
Stay
I
on.
can't hear you, Mary. I'm going to pause this for just a minute while we figure out video and. Okay. So I'd like to start by thanking each of you for agreeing to meet with me virtually like this during such a challenging time, and I hope you're all happy and healthy and well.
Thanks.
I go.
Yeah. So let's start with, can you tell me about how and when your family came to live in Simí?
Okay.
Mary, what's your understanding?
So the way we came to live in Simí Valley was that my parents were both born in Simí Valley, in Simí. My dad was born in 1931, and my mom was born in 1927. So she was 4 years older than him, and he always kidded her about that. Anyway, so they were born there. He grew up there. He was raised there in Simí Valley, and when my mom was 4, she went back to Mexico, and she lived there until she was 21, and then she returned. But then the rest of us, the way we got to be there is we were all born there. Yeah. We were born in Dr. Jones' office.
Yeah. But before that, our grandfathers were here.
Yes. Yeah. But our grandfathers came in the early 20s.
No, they actually came in the early 1900s when the railroad was being built.
Right.
Okay. Okay. That's right. Well, now you're talking about our great-grandfathers. You're right.
Great-grandfathers, yes.
Great-grandfathers, yes.
So they came when, Clarissa?
So when the tunnel was being blasted from the train tunnel from Simí Valley to the valley,
Okay.
Our great-grandfathers, maternal and paternal, who were friends from back in Mexico, they came out here to work on the railroads. I believe, I'm not 100% sure on the exact year because that tunnel project took place in the first decade of the 1900s. So I think Benny traced it to 1906.
Benny, your brother?
Your brother, yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense. Okay, yeah.
And then of course they went back and their families came and.
Back and forth.
Yeah.
Okay, so then when did your dad, Benito's family come to Simí Valley?
Well, my great-grandfather, Benito's grandfather, he was one of the guys working on the railroad. His son was working for a rich landowner down in Mexico, in Michoacan. And my grandfather wanted to come up to join his dad. And he had to literally escape for his life because the rich landowner was known for oppressing his employees, they were more like slaves.
This was
And it-
during the Mexican Revolution, 1910.
Probably around then. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. My grandfather was, no. My grandfather, gosh, when was he born?
1902.
1902.
1902.
So when
Which
he was
grandfather is
a
that?
young man, right? So he was, so in the early 20s.
That's Augustine?
Agustin is name.
Augustine. Okay.
Agustin Lemos was trying to get he was trying to get to the States. Anyway, he had to escape from this landowner, rich landowner in Michoacan, because he was threatened with death for daring to demand a little bit of justice and a little more income. And so employees who worked for that man tended to disappear in shallow graves on his plantation.
Wow.
So he took his mother, Ascension, from what I recall, now correct me girls if I say anything off, and his sister Aurelia, and they came up to the States. So this must have been in the very early 20s when my grandfather, Agustin.
Mhm.
Yeah, and for some reason 1919 sticks in my head.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because a girlfriend of mine did a history report 25 years ago on my dad. She interviewed my father for her final exam for her doctorate or whatever. I contacted her, and she just deleted everything off her computer. And she goes, "You're kidding! I just deleted it like a month ago." And
Why
it was
would you do that?
yeah, because it wasn't important to her. I mean, that was 25 years ago. She didn't need it.
So your dad, Benito, was born in Simí, and your
Yes.
mom, Frances, was also born in Simí, but
Yes.
she left with her family and lived in Mexico until she was 21.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
when she returned, had they already met, or did they meet when she returned? How did your parents meet?
They met when she returned.
They met when she returned, but the grandfathers knew each other in Mexico.
Your mom and dad's grandfathers.
But when my
knew each other.
mom came up, they already knew my dad's family because the grandfathers knew each other. In fact, weren't they like best man or somebody?
Yes.
Or
So the
somebody's
two,
wedding.
Are you
two
talking?
great
Are you talking
grandfathers,
about?
the
Are
great
you
grandfathers.
talking about my dad's Are you talking of our parents' grandfathers or our grandfathers?
No,
They knew
they're
each other.
our grandfathers. Our
Well,
two
grandfathers. Okay.
knew each
They
other.
both knew each other, yeah. What were you
Yes.
saying, Clarisa?
So did our great grandfathers. Jesus and Chago or Santiago were also friends from
Yes.
back in
Yes.
Mexico. And then they also came out here together. So when my mom came back when she was 21 and she came back and met my father, she actually went to live in his home because her brother was living there. Her brother Marcelo was living in that home. That he was renting a room. So when he brought my mom back, they rented a little room there. And that's how she met my dad.
What house was that in, Clarisa?
It became,
Was that on Ashland?
I think it's the Ashland house. It's in that neighborhood. So I'm pretty sure it was
Yeah.
the Ashland house. Uh-huh.
Ashland and Simí.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so your family growing up, how many children are in your immediate family? How many children did Frances and Benito have?
14.
14.
Children. Can you tell me a little bit
Yeah.
about that? You mentioned Dr. Jones.
Okay, how many of us
Yes.
were born in Dr. Jones's office, girls?
12. No.
12.
12. Yes.
The first 12.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then,
I'm sorry,
Rita was
then the
born
last-
in the
The
hospital.
first 11 were
Yeah.
born in
Yes.
Dr. Jones' office. The
Yes.
first one born in a hospital had
was Rita.
problems.
And she was the one who died.
the one who was born in the
Yeah.
hospital was the one that died.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
But Dr. Jones
I
did
agree.
not deliver her. I think she was the only one that Dr. Jones did not deliver, so, from what
That's
I understand.
correct. That's correct.
It was a different doctor. And interesting, the first child to be born in a hospital and then also by a different doctor was the one who died.
Yeah.
And that
So,
was Rita.
Rita.
Yes.
So I read while I was doing my research about a coupon. Did Dr. Jones offer your family a coupon? There was something about, they asked
I don't,
during the,
He said
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
mom was pregnant with Chato, right? With John, the last one. He said she had had a dozen, and the next one was going to be on the house.
Yeah, when Mary was
Oh.
born, Dr. Jones asked my dad, how many children do you want? He said, oh, about 12. And he says, okay, I tell you what, when you have the 12th, he's free, or that child, number 12 will be free on me. And so he kept his promise, from what I understand.
Mhm.
Yeah.
When Chato was born, John, who's the youngest, who was named after Dr. Jones, that's where
Yes.
his name John.
Oh, yeah.
Mom said that
Mhm.
they gave her her bill and there was a zero balance on it.
Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
wow.
That's because he wasn't worth anything.
where did Mary go? Did she leave?
No,
No, I
she's
still
right there.
see
No,
her.
up here.
I still
Oh,
see
okay.
her. So can you tell me about where your family lived when you were growing up? Like the succession of where you lived?
Well, Mary started off
Yes.
first. Where did you
I,
live?
so
Go ahead,
I
Mary.
started- I used to, okay, I lived, I don't know, I think I lived with, in where my dad's, where my dad's parents, there was a little house in the back.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's where I was, when I was first born, I lived with my parents. But then we moved to a house on LA Avenue, right by 4th Street,
Right.
LA Avenue and 4th Street. And there was a house there, and it's still there. Now it's
Still there.
it's still there. It's a palm reader's house now, but it used to be a family lived. Actually, they weren't married. There were two.
Brothers.
Two
The Paramo
brothers.
family.
Bottoms.
Yeah, the Paramo family. The Paramo, and they're also a Simí Valley family. The Paramos, Paramo family.
Yeah.
And so my parents rented a room, and I went there to live with them. And then Bertha, when she was born, we lived there. So it was the two little girls and my parents. And then we made the big move to Erringer Road. And I think when Liz was born, we were living on Erringer Road. And we
Yes.
lived in one house on Erringer Road for a couple of years or so. And then in between 1955 or 56, we moved right next door when those people moved out, and it was a bigger house, and it was on 2271 North Erringer Road.
Yeah,
And all of the children
Yeah.
were born there except for Clarisa.
I wasn't
was she
born
born
on
there?
I wasn't born on 2271.
No, you were.
I think the first baby to be born
That's
there
what-
was Nora.
It was
No.
Victor.
Victor, okay, that's right.
We
Okay,
moved,
Victor.
we moved there, and Benny couldn't walk yet. You know what? And I would the house that Francis, Benny, and I were born in, Liz.
Was right next
my
door.
mom was born in that house. On
Yeah.
Erringer.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right. She was born on Erringer Road.
Yeah.
And
because
she was born, I don't know, maybe you would say 100 yards from the Montgomery house? Would you say that might half a mile?
not even
No,
quarter of a mile.
maybe not even.
Quarter of a mile
Yeah.
from where the Montgomerys lived. The Montgomery house was on the corner of Erringer and Cochrane,
Right.
which is now the church, the Methodist church. Anyway, we lived a little south from there, about a quarter of the mile down the road. And anyway, yes, that's where my mother was born. In fact,
Yeah.
Mrs. Montgomery.
Yeah,
And
then years later, my dad moves into that house because it was one of the farm worker houses, and my dad worked for Montgomery, and that's where three of us were born. But it happens to be that my mom was born in that same house.
Yes.
Did your mom's parents also work for the Montgomerys?
Yes.
Yes.
They did.
And so
Okay.
did my dad's dad.
Yeah.
Agustin also did too.
Okay. Okay.
And was it the, yeah, because when my grandfather was a younger man, Mrs. Montgomery's mom did a painting of him, and
Oh,
he
yeah.
looked young. He wasn't gray or anything, and he still had both his arms. So
Do you still
Yeah,
have
we-
that painting?
Yes.
Yeah.
I just gave it to you, Clarisa. Do you still have,
Yes,
you do have
I
it?
have
Okay,
it.
good. Yeah. In fact, I'm going to have the museum try to scan it if they want a copy of it, because that is a very old drawing. Mrs. Montgomery didn't do it. It was her mother, Mrs. DeLong. So it's a very old drawing.
and isn't it chalk?
It's chalk.
Yes.
Yes.
And she was a famous artist in her day, wasn't she?
Yeah. Mrs. DeLong? Well, she
Yeah.
painted a lot, I think, and she carved wood, but I don't know to what extent she was known. How about you, Mary? Do you know?
Mhm. No,
Right.
I don't. I just know that she would paint and draw with chalk. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if she was very famous.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. We knew her. She was still alive when we were kids.
Right.
Mrs. Montgomery's mother. And she was like a classic old woman with a long black dress with a little white lace collar and her cane.
19th century granny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So can you tell me what the community of Simi Valley was like when you were little?
We'll
Okay, so the
yield to you
community-
first, Mary, always, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So the community, there was in the community of I want to say between 5th Street and off of LA Avenue, 5th Street and let's see, 1st Street. That whole little, that was like just there were some that was the community then and then off of LA Avenue. In fact,
Okay,
that's
that quadrant, you're talking about the quadrant,
Yes.
Mary?
Yeah. I'm thinking of the community that
Ventura?
lived there.
Yeah, Ventura, 5th Street, 1st Street, LA Avenue.
That neighborhood where the Colony
Yeah.
House is that you were talking about, Desiree. That's the quadrant
Yeah.
all the way up to LA Avenue. That was the main kind of, I guess, drag, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it was called
in
the
there-
quadrant?
No, it's just that quadrant of homes, that whole
That-
quadrant area
Okay.
on the map is called, we called it Simí. When my dad would go from Erringer Road to visit his aunt on Ashland Avenue, he'd say, let's go to Simí.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
And there were a couple of stores there. When I was little, there were a couple little stores on Ashland Avenue, and then later there was only the one. But they had, the Catholic Church was in that area too. The St. Rose of Lima was there.
Yes.
The post office was there. The barber shop was there.
Right.
Are those the buildings that are in the Strathern Park now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That church building is where I believe my paternal grandparents were married. Did you girls know that?
Yeah.
Where
Yes,
who was
yes.
married?
Papa Poli and Mama Lupe?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maternal.
Maternal grandparents were married there, and so were my parents.
Yes.
Oh,
Mhm. Mhm.
I wish
And
we
my
had
mom
had a
was-
chance to meet in that church.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think my first four, my mom and her three brothers that were born here in Simí Valley, they were baptized there too, I think, because that was the only Catholic
Yeah.
church.
Yeah, she did have some brothers, a couple of brothers who were born in Simí Valley also. So it wasn't
Three.
just our mother.
Yeah, 3.
Mhm.
Three brothers and my mom.
And my mom.
Beef.
What was it like here? What was it like in Simi Valley?
It was
When you
very
were little.
green because there were orchards everywhere. I mean, there were walnut orchards, apricot orchards,
Orange
Cit-
groves, citrus.
orange groves.
Citrus.
And when we were little, my mom would, I remember being in kindergarten and having the bus drop us off at an orchard because my mom was picking, and it was seasonal. She only worked during the season with our grandfathers. They would help too. And you know, we all had our little bucket, and I just remember the bus dropping us off at whatever orchard my mom was going to be at to you
Yeah.
know, because we were
But
gonna pick
these
walnuts.
were, we were
what?
picking walnuts. Yeah, we didn't pick the oranges. We picked the walnuts.
Yeah.
The walnuts. Yeah.
The oranges we picked, we ate.
Yeah.
We,
did.
it was, that was my earliest recollections too, is that Simí Valley was definitely a farming community. And LA Avenue was a two-way, just a two-lane highway. We remember when the first traffic light came in, which I think was in the east end, Santa Susana.
Yeah.
But in fact, over there in that Santa Susana site on the east end of LA Avenue, there was like a median strip with eucalyptus trees, I believe. But a lot of eucalyptus trees, a lot of groves, and you know, even stuff like tomatoes in different places. But it was mostly orchards and stuff. And my recollections too. Go ahead.
I was just, no, you go ahead.
When they were talking about that we would go walnut picking, we have so many memories of our mother packing all this food, and everything in those days was not in Tupperware. It was like in little pots and stuff, stacking pots.
Stacking pots.
Yeah.
Then our grandfather would take the wood, make a little fire, so they'd heat the tortillas at lunchtime and.
Yeah, out there in the walnut groves, and then also glass jugs of water. Yeah. And then also sometimes with a baby in a bassinet.
Or a bassinet, yeah.
Yeah.
The latest baby was in there, yeah.
Yeah, so she'd get all set up, and the walnut season wasn't that long; it was only a few weeks. But I do remember that was one of my favorite memories, and you know, and then as we got older, I did it into, I want to say through junior high, we were still picking walnuts.
Yeah, we were.
Our fingers would be black, and from the walnut skins. And it was like, oh no, we got to go with black hands to school.
And by the way, a lot of the people that would be picking walnuts next to us on another row were our white friends, sometimes from church or school. It was Mexican and white families. It was just some extra way to get a little income in the fall.
Right.
Was the community very diverse when you were growing up?
No, it was just Hispanic and white people. I mean, that was it. There weren't blacks. You didn't see we didn't see Asians.
No.
They worked in the railroads, but they didn't settle in Simí.
They didn't settle in Simí, no.
When you were little, there was just the one train station, right? In Santa Susana?
Santa Susana, yeah. Yeah.
What about you, Clarissa?
Well,
She lived in the neighborhood.
Yeah, I grew up in the house. So, I mean, I was born in 71, way later. I'm much, much younger than my sisters.
Well, what do you remember?
We're old enough.
They're all old enough to be my mom.
What do you remember about the community when you were growing up?
When I was growing up, it was already much more diverse. There were still very few, there weren't any like African-American Black families. I remember, I mean, there weren't a lot of them. I remember the very only time I saw a Black person at school at St. Rose, they were there for 2 years. But other than that, it was still very either white or Hispanic.
Yeah. And you were born when I was a senior in high school, and we had Black friends in high school, but it was a handful. For the whole high school. You know, we had graduating classes of like 400 students and stuff. So,
Clarisa you went to Catholic school. That's probably why you didn't have the diversity.
Yeah.
Was there a difference between Santa Susana and Simí in any way? Like, was there a class difference or a diversity difference or?
No. Because they were building neighborhoods. When we, the first time I ever saw a building of a neighborhood were the houses between Royal Avenue on 4th Street, you know, where Guerramona is. I remember our uncle, my dad's brother, lived with us and he would take us cruising on Sundays, sometimes in the afternoon or on Saturdays, and take us for a ride after church. And I remember cruising through when they were building those homes, and they were built in the 50s. And
Yes.
and we walked around. I remember walking through the lumber and the nails and stuff as little kids. And so we saw the new neighborhoods popping up here and there. But when there's another neighborhood, 1960, I want to say 1961, maybe 1961. We were playing in the orchard, maybe younger. We were playing in the orchard, and we used to, because that was our playground. You know, Francis, Benny, and I were like the trio, the troublemaking trio. And we were always inventing things and getting into trouble. And my dad would trench out the irrigation rows, you know, for the irrigation. And we think, you know, wow, there's all this flowing water. And we would dam up we'd make big holes, carve out all this dirt and make like mud holes to bathe. And then my dad would come walking down from the ranch, and he'd be like, "What are you doing?" You know, because we dam up the whole irrigation system. But when it was all plowed up, you know, and the oranges had already been picked and stuff, we didn't pick the orchard. They, you know, have the workers come and pick the oranges. But we were running through this playing hide and seek, and you'd try to find the trees where the trees were hanging low. And I remember hiding under, and we were only allowed to go certain rows into the orchard where it was safe. Because my mom would say, "You go beyond this and you're going to be in trouble." So they'd give us, you know, 3 or 4 rows into the orchard that we could go. Well, I went beyond the line because I found the perfect tree, and I lay down underneath the tree just to look at the feet, whoever was it, you know. And as I turned around, I saw pink, yellow, blue, and like pastel colors. And it stopped me in my tracks because I thought, what the heck is that? So I followed the colors, and it was the tract that was being built. So I invited my troublemaking buddies, let's go look. And we walked, you know, probably 10, 15 rows to go. And we just stood at the other side of the fence, had no idea that this was going on just on the other side of the orchard. Wow. And they had built all these tract homes, and they were all those pastel colors like you see, you know, in the old movies and stuff. Yeah. And it was enchanting to me because we lived in this forest of trees, and we weren't tied to any of that. And then all of a sudden, here come these Easter eggs. You know, it was awesome.
Easter cubes.
It's just one of my very vivid Simi Valley
memories
moments. Yeah.
What did your dad do for the Montgomerys? What was his official job? Because you said that there were workers that came in to pick the stuff.
He tended to the orchards. He tended to the orchards. He did the irrigation.
The tractor.
Tended the tractor work, the disking of, you know. So he was busy all year round with preparing the even in the winter when protecting the fruit that it wouldn't freeze with
the smudge pots.
The smudge pots. They would get, like if it was going to freeze that night, they knew, and then they would bring out the trucks with the smudge pots, and they'd put them up and down. And I remember that the smudge pots, when they were lit, they would glow into our bedrooms, and it was a really like it was kind of scary, but at the same time, it was kind of like a fantasy, you know, like
it was light. It was very enchanting. It was really, the whole orchard would glow with fire, you know. Yeah,
yeah. And I really remember the orchards were they smelled so, it was a beautiful smell, the blossom citrus all the time. It always smelled so nice. Just because we had around our house, like it was covered in orange and grapefruit trees, and sometimes in between the rows of trees during the summer they would grow cantaloupes, and I don't know if I remember the cantaloupe. And then also tomatoes. Tomatoes. So we always had. We ate very well, you know, because we were allowed to eat fruit, and that grew on the trees, and so we always had oranges. And then the local farmers would come to visit. Their workers would come to visit us, and they'd bring us, you know, corn and other vegetables and fruit.
Right. So we always had a lot of food.
A lot of. The fall, and then in the fall, my dad would go deer hunting right there where Wood Ranch is, I guess, and Reagan Library area. He'd go deer hunting, you know, right there.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
after work,
yeah.
come
Mhm.
home, he'd you know, gobble up some food and then go at dusk to go deer hunting,
Hmm.
and come
And
back.
once
and
in a while,
he would,
sometimes he would take one of the children, you know, to
yeah, he'd
with
take
him.
us.
Yeah.
I remember he took me one time, and I
Yeah.
started making all this noise because I didn't want him to shoot the deer. So he says, "You're not coming back."
Yeah.
So I didn't get to go more than once.
Yeah.
So the deer hunting happened at night?
No.
In the evening, like
In
in
the
the
evening.
dusk, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
After work.
Yeah.
And on Saturdays, he'd go early in the morning. Well, actually, it wasn't Saturdays because he worked on Saturdays. So.
What kind
We
of
were-
car did your family have? Was it a truck or a car? Or a...
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had
We had-
station wagons. I mean, you know, the first car that I remember was, I think, just a 4-door Chevy. I don't know. Was it Poco Loco? Did we ride in
Yeah,
that
it
one?
was.
I
You
can't
got
remember.
all 14 kids and
No. We didn't never had that many kids had to be in the car. The most we had in a vehicle was
11?
11 of us.
What happened?
What?
Stop here.
That was the truck and the camper.
Yeah, my dad had a blue Chevy pickup, and he just bought a camper shell on it, or it came with a camper shell, and there were wooden benches across the side and across the back, and all of us loaded up into the back of that truck, and the baby would ride up front with my mom. There was always a baby, but the most we ever had at a time were 11. Because then when number 12 came, Clarisa, Mary went off to college. When number 13 came, or 14, or whatever number you guys call yourselves, the other one was my sister and my mom were pregnant at the same time. Our sister number 2 was married and pregnant, and my mom was pregnant with Chato. So there was never more than 11 at a time, you know.
And I do remember loading up in the car, and you might have said this for a minute there, you kind of lost you all. We would load up into the whatever car, and everybody had a kid on their lap.
Yes.
So, yeah.
did you spend much time out in the valley? Before the 118 went through in the 50s, so would you take Santa Susana Pass?
I'm going to step
Yes.
out my
Yes.
meeting.
See you
I'll
in
be
a
back.
minute, Liz.
Yes, Mary, you
Yeah.
want to do that one?
You mean the San Fernando Valley? Did we spend a lot
Yeah.
of time there?
Yeah.
Yeah, we had some relatives that
Mhm.
lived there, and we would see, maybe we would go maybe a couple of times a year. We didn't really go into that valley, into the San Fernando Valley. That we had some, like I said, relatives, a couple of families that lived there, and didn't visit it much. And it was a totally different world for us because it was
Yeah.
so crowded. Even back then to us, it seemed so crowded. Now it's a lot more. But Simí Valley was always so serene and peaceful. And in fact, our relatives, whenever they would visit us from the San Fernando Valley, they just loved Simí Valley. They go, "Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful here." And it was so nice, the mountains, and, you know, just coming
Yes.
over the pass. We did have to go through that canyon, you know,
Yeah.
what's it called? Yeah, the Santa Susana Pass.
Yeah.
And off of that on Box Canyon, there used to be a community that lived there, a religious community that I
The
remember
Fountain
that
of the
they used to go to.
Worlds.
Yes, and I remember those children used to go to our school when I was little, and then there was a big fire, and some of them were burnt. You know, I remember back then it was really a big tragedy because we had made friends with these people, and all of a sudden they weren't there anymore. You know, because
I think there was
lot
a
of them
bombing
died.
out there in 1951.
yes.
Yeah.
It actually was a little bit, because I remember in there was a bombing and a fire it must have been like 1957 or so, because I was already in first grade, I think.
Okay.
First grade, yeah. And yeah, I remember that one. That was a big jolt, you know, to my first experience really with death, you know.
Right.
And,
I think wasn't that bombing related to some cult that was up there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It
The
was-
Fountain of the
it
World.
was a cult.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a
Yeah.
tendency for people in the Knolls who settled in the Knolls. They were kind of weird. Not all of them, but it tended to attract really weird people, including the Mansons,
Yeah.
Manson family.
Yeah.
But I do remember those trips through the Santa Susana Pass to get to San Fernando. It seemed like it would take forever, and of course it was a more narrow drive, so it was kind of dangerous. It was kind of scary. I never liked going to San Fernando. I never did. Or we'd go there or to Pacoima to visit relatives. Yeah.
Do you remember when
Yeah.
the freeway went through, the 118?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did that take a
That was
long time?
Yeah, they did it in like first it was didn't go all the way. I remember that the part that was right by Moorpark College, that was one of the later parts that were that was completed, because I remember a lot of they had a big party on the street, and they were going to open it, and some students from Moorpark College went over there, and they were having a party there on the street.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, but it wasn't completed all at once. It took, just little portions of it, and then you could go up to this street and get off. There was an off ramp here, and but it took a while. And once we could go from Simí Valley into the valley, and then by then some of us were older, so we used to like to go to the mall on
Topanga?
on Canyon, yeah, the Topanga Mall, yeah. So it was still, a little ways off, but you could get off in Topanga and go all the way, Topanga, I think, and then just go all the way down. And it was, right after Roscoe Boulevard. So I think we visited the valley more when we were older, but as children, we really didn't. Okay. Just a couple of times a year.
You were talking earlier about school. Can you tell me a little bit about what school was like for each of you when you were little?
Go ahead, Mary.
Okay, so there was this, when I started school, there was only the Simí Elementary School, and then the next year they opened Santa Susana Elementary School because the valley was growing, and they started adding schools. I think by fourth grade or so, Lincoln Elementary School opened, and and then one year between like 5th and 6th grade, they were just popping up all over the place. I remember in my 6th grade year, I went to 3 different schools that year. We got to go to a lot of brand new schools, because we were right on the boundary or something. So and there was
also the huge growth.
The huge growth, yeah. There were in the tract homes that were popping up, and people just moving in. So I remember that in my 6th grade, I started off at I want to say, what was that name of that one that off of Sycamore, Valley Vista or Valley View? It used to be called
Valley Vista.
Right? Valley Vista.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Valley View was the junior high. But
but that came later.
So we went to Valley Vista, and they had like a 2-session day. Some of us went in the morning and some in the afternoon. And then we were there for a couple of months, and then they opened up Arcane School. And then we went there. Part of the school went transferred to Arcane. And then after Christmas vacation, we started the school year, the January, going to Parkview School. So it was growing that fast. The schools were just popping up all over. And so they would move students around, and they would, accommodate them. And, well, we're going to have a 2-session school day. And like I said, but then by the time I was at my 3rd school that year, then we had a full day. And so, yeah, it was crazy. And then when I was I started off in one junior high, the only junior high school they had there, it was called Center Junior High School. And then Center. And then the next year they had Sinaloa. And then 2 more junior high schools came up. And so, yes, we got to go to a lot of different schools.
With all that moving around, did you get to move with your friends, or did you end up getting separated?
Not necessarily. Sometimes we would get separated and we'd make new friends. And so it was kind of exciting. It was sad at first, but then, then once we were in junior high, we got to, we get to see each other because there were only like 2 junior high schools. So you'd see each other. And then back then by the time I got to high school, I saw a lot of kids that I used to go to school in other schools, and I hadn't seen them for a while. But we did get to see a lot of others, friends, because we were really involved in brownies and Girl Scouts. So we had, we would do a lot of stuff with that. My dad always felt that it was important that we would learn how to live in the outdoors and learn about camping and all that. So we were involved in that. And,
did you guys camp around here? Did you camp in Oak Park, or was there somewhere else?
Yeah, Oak Park. We would camp with the Girl Scouts in Oak Park, and sometimes in people's backyards, in the backyards, and we would camp, and then Oak Park have a summer camp there, and we would go for about a week. We would go to that, and then sometimes we'd venture out and go, I think we went to Nojoki Falls over in Santa Barbara, and we did things like that. So it was fun. A lot of I was really involved with the Girl Scouts, and Bertha, Elizabeth, I think, and Francis, weren't you? Or Brownies?
I was in Brownies. Yeah. Were you ever in the Scouts, Clarisa?
No, I always wanted to, but
yeah.
You never got. Yeah.
No.
But going back to Simí Elementary School, Mary, Bertha, Liz, Francis, did Benny ever do a Simí Elementary School, Mary? I don't know if he did.
Remember.
But so at least the first 4 girls, the oldest the 4 girls, we went to Simí Elementary School, and then yes, that's when we started moving around. But that really was the only place for a while to go to school.
That was the same school, Simí Elementary, that Dad went to.
That's right.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, Clarisa, you said that you went to a Catholic school?
Yes.
Rather than a public school? Or was that a public school?
No, it was a Catholic school. I went to St. Rose from first grade. I went to Hollow Hills Elementary for kindergarten, and because they didn't have the kindergarten at St. Rose, and then St. Rose for 8 years. And then from there, I went to Lorena High School in Thousand Oaks, another Catholic school.
And how was your school experience?
It was the same group of kids for 8 years, so you really developed a lot of close friendships. It's the same 45 kids in your class from first grade all the way to 8th grade, with very few change outs throughout the years. And then high school was a big difference because I didn't have any of my friends go to that high school.
Where did you go to high school?
I went to Lorena in Thousand Oaks.
Oh.
And most of my friends at that point from St. Rose, after the 8th grade, they either went to public school for high school, or some went to the Valley, to Alamany or Chaminade. And I went to Lorena.
Were there high schools in Simi Valley then?
Yes, there were high schools. There just weren't any Catholic high schools, and my mom wanted me to go to Catholic school.
Okay, I see.
I missed the Catholic school, St. Rose of Lima, by 1 year. I was 1 year too old, and I was so thankful.
Why is that?
Because I wanted to be with my friends. Yeah.
So what sort of things did you guys do with your friends growing up as teenagers? What was there to do here?
I remember I'm going to text Liz to tell her to mute her.
I did, okay. But she's not answering me. You might want to call her.
Okay. One of the first places that I remember in Simi Valley where teenagers hung out, and we, later did, not so much, but was called the Dairy Delight. Do you remember anything previous to that? To the Dairy Delight, Mary?
No, we
pretty much that was the hangout.
That was Dairy Delight. Yeah.
No need to call Liz. She's back.
Okay. Yeah.
until the A&W came in.
Then the A&W came in, and other places started springing up. But
these were on Los Angeles.
Yes. Dairy Delight was very close to Erringer and LA Avenue, and just a stone's throw from the doghouse. Remember that?
On the other side of the railroad tracks. So everything shook when you were in there.
Oh yeah, yeah. Mhm.
What was
Yeah.
the doghouse?
Oh,
Bar.
it was a bar. It was just a bar where
This
old
little
guys would
tiny
hang.
bar, but it was a
Yeah.
place where they
just
went for a beer.
yeah. But for us as teenagers, well, we had the Simí Drive-In, and we remember when they had the grand opening to that. There was a busload of actors who came.
Yes.
Mhm.
The
was
movie
like the
Flipper with
The
Luke
movie Flipper. Luke
yeah.
Halpin was there, yes.
And Chuck Connors from The Rifleman.
Yeah.
He was
Fabian, what was Fabian doing there?
was in a movie with Annette Funicello, and they came to the Simí Drive-In, and they did this big grand opening, and we got to go. So we met. I met Chuck Connors. I was leaning up against the limousine, and he rolled down the window, and it was like, oh my gosh, there's the rifle. And Bertha, didn't she jump on Fabian or?
On Fabian's
she did.
back or something, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Forgot about that.
And we got their autographs and all that, yeah.
I
But that
remember-
was a big thing, going to the drive-in. Go ahead.
Was
Yeah,
that
go-
a dating kind of a place or like friends kind of a place or both? The drive.
Hello?
Where
Yeah,
we saw
yeah.
movies, big drive-in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was big doings for us. I mean,
Yeah.
when was?
Yeah.
I mean, what was it? We must have been in third or fourth
Uh,
grade.
Yeah.
Earlier
it was-
than that.
It was
Early
1963. 1963.
63?
Uh-huh.
I think, yeah. And that was exciting because we'd get to go once in a while. And
Yeah.
that was fun.
Did you go as a family to the drive-in?
No, relatives take us.
Really?
People would take us. Kind of a treat. I don't remember going to the drive-in too much with our parents because my mom always had a baby. There was always a baby, needing
And
something.
my dad would always say, we can't afford it.
Yeah, we can't afford it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I remember being taken to go see 101 Dalmatians.
Oh, that was
And I was-
great.
First communion. It was 1960. Other people would take us to the movies. And so we get to the drive that we went because it was not the Simí drive, it was somewhere else. But I went with these two ladies and they took me. I don't know why. I think because I didn't wet the bed for a week or something. And so
You want to track that?
anyways, and I fell asleep, but I just remember watching the big screen movies. Every once in a while, it was like going to Disneyland.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Yeah. So
What do you remember, Mary, about the drive-in?
The drive-in.
Don't tell her.
No. Yeah.
jumping in the
I
trunk.
went to it later, when I was a teenager, more with my boyfriend, but whom I married to now. But like they said, I think my dad took us a couple of times, but it could have been another drive-in. I just remember seeing things like Sinbad the Sailor, and I saw 101 Dalmatian. I think Minga took us.
Minga took it, yeah. Tony, yeah, our cousin.
Our cousin. So relatives would take us to the drive-in.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of people that were, they're just, family.
Pitied us.
They were very nice. They spoiled us whenever they would come over. And, they.
What do you
They
remember,
spoiled
Clarissa?
I did.
They spoiled us because they really loved our parents. They liked us too, but
Yeah.
my dad was just loved, and my mom was like, everybody
Yeah.
loved my mom. So
Yeah. And I remember a lot of, we always had, during vacation, we always had friends that wanted to come over. And sometimes they would stay there the whole day. Their parents would drop them off and they'd love to be out there playing with us and running in the orchard. And and eating our food, our Mexican
Yeah.
food that my mom would
Yeah.
Feeding the baby goats,
Yeah.
remember? Yeah. It was like going to Knott's Berry Farm, what they
Right.
would tell us.
Yeah, we had goats
Yeah, we
and
had
pigs, and chickens and
pigs,
sheep,
yeah.
pigs, Piggly
And-
Wiggly.
yeah.
And we would name them,
And
we
ducks.
name the animals, the names of characters that we read in, Fun with Dick and Jane. And, we named our ducks Fido and Rover and
Cookie and Quacky, the ducks.
we were fitting in, Quacky the duck, Goosey
Yeah.
Goose, Goose,
And our dad always warned us, don't get close to the animals because the animals that we had were functional. They were not to be pets.
Right.
We didn't mistreat the animals, but we were taught that animals have a job. Let them
Right.
do their job. So if
Exactly.
you're just, dressing up the cats in doll clothes, they can't do their job of mousing. And so the cats would mouse, the dogs would chase away predators, the chickens would lay the eggs, the goats would provide meat. So would the chickens. So
Mhm.
we were raised with an animal was going to provide a service to us. So
Right.
when my dad would buy 1 or 2 goats at the same time, it was to fatten them up, to slaughter them for food.
Right.
So we grew up watching these animals being gutted and hung by the feet and, decapitated and the whole bit. And it was good for us because I can still remember some of the things that he did if I ever had to go into survival mode. But so we were raised with a lot of blood and slaughter. Yeah, and when a dog when the dog had no more to give, somebody would have to take the dog out in the middle of the orchard and put it down because there was no pound to take the dog to. This was how farmers did things, So it was a whole different kind of life. And my dad would try to toughen us up whenever an animal would get slaughtered. And that's why I learned not to get too close to a functional animal.
But named them. They became like,
I know.
Sally's goat. When they put Sally down, I was like, you gotta be, we're eating Sally?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or chocolate chip.
Yeah, chocolate chip.
But he would say, now you come on out here. He wouldn't let us watch him either shoot the animal or that. But we always peeked through the windows. And so we always watched how the animal would get slaughtered. Then once he started to skin it, he would call us all out there and he'd say, okay, here's the heart. Go take it to your mother. Here's the head.
Mm-hmm.
You two go and empty the stomach bag out, dig a hole in the orchard. And so we were really raised to do some pretty tough stuff.
Yeah.
Dad didn't want to see any we had to do it.
I was a gagger. But I remember one time my grandmother, my dad's mom, our grandmother, she was going to have a birthday party. I think she was turning 50 or something. And we had a lot of chickens. And so she told us to go bring her the chickens. And I'm all excited. And next thing I know, my grandmother, she always had a cigarette hanging off of her lip. And she had this carrot red hair and these blue piercing eyes. And she grabs 2 chickens and spins them around and starts.
Yeah, she was good.
And I'm looking at her, and then she lays down one chicken, puts one under her arm, puts the other one down, and whack! She lets go of the chicken, and she's just whacking necks, and we're all because she's going to make this big mole. And I'm in shock. I've never seen a chicken with his head cut off, and I take off, and the chicken's running, and so I'm running, and next thing I know, here comes this headless chicken towards me, and I passed out. I just went out, and I woke up, and I was on my mom had me on the kitchen counter trying to put some water in my mouth.
It was like playing dodge chicken. There was chickens all over the place running headless. And so, but that was, life in the ranch.
Yeah.
Also, when sometimes, we'd get a rough billy goat and he'd escape the pen or the goats would get out somehow, we'd have to go out in the orchard and try to round them back to get back in and sometimes they would get really testy with us, or, coming at us like they were going to butt us. So yeah, life was tough in the ranch. A lot of hard work.
But fun. It was fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Liz, we were talking while you were gone about teenage times.
Uh-oh.
Honey.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it was hard for me as a teenager because I was a real tomboy. I was just wild, and I'd come home from elementary school and just rip off my shirt, climb the trees, and eat the grapes. And I mean, I was just a wild child. Where my sisters were more feminine, and I just wasn't. And then you reach maturity or puberty and stuff, and everything changes, and I just was not very hygienic. So I lost a lot of my friends when I went from elementary school to junior high. And that it was a really hard transition for me. I didn't fit in. I felt more at home at the ranch, because I was like, that was my comfort zone. So going into 7th grade was tough. And it was real tough. And then by 8th grade, I was starting to kind of, all right, this is real. I've got to put a shirt on. I've got to wear clothes. But I was pretty wild. So.
What about you, Clarisa?
Teenage years?
Teenage years. What was there? What did you do?
There was a lot more to do here during my teen years. We still had the drive-in here. We had the Larwin Square was kind of like the big hangout. There was the theater, and it went from the Twin Theater to the bigger theater. It had I think they got 6 theaters or something like that. At the same time, they opened up the Sycamore Plaza on Sycamore and Cochrane, and that was like the big place. They had the Man theaters there. So now we have 3 theaters. We had the drive-in, the Larwin, the Man, and then very long strip mall. So it had like Miller's Outpost, and then the record store, and just a ton of places to hang out. We had arcades, and that's the time where like I kind of wish we could go back to that, because there's so many places to hang out. We had the skating rink, even for a little bit of it. I think maybe 2 seasons they had a water slide out here, which was kind of cool. Do you remember the water slide on Sinaloa?
No.
Sinaloa?
Kelly
Where was
Leonard
that?
worked there. It was on Sinaloa and
Oh, yeah.
LA Avenue.
I remember seeing it. Yeah.
Yeah, you were already probably married with children.
Kids. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But there was a ton of things to do, and we could walk everywhere. I remember we would walk to Sycamore from Erringer First Street area, and
Wow.
my parents were okay with that. And I don't let my 16-year-old like walk around the block by herself.
Yeah, it's different.
Different time.
Did you tell her about the ice cream parlor?
Dairy Delight.
No, the ice cream parlor.
John Henry's.
John Henry's. That was another hangout.
I just saw a picture of John Henry's today on a history page. Yeah.
Where was that?
Yeah.
Close to Sinaloa and
I'm gonna step out. I'll be right back.
Okay.
LA Avenue and between Sinaloa and 4th Street, I want to say.
And what was that like?
It was an ice cream parlor. It was an old-fashioned ice cream parlor, and they had booths and stuff that you could sit in, and people would go hang out there. I remember when you get out of junior high, your graduation was go to John Henry's, and have
It was
ice
sort of
cream.
like a Victorian decor.
Yeah.
But a friend's
That was
hangout.
fun.
Yeah.
Where the kids hung out there because you could get a malt and what do you call those floats, root beer floats, and things like that.
So tell me about car culture. Was there car culture here for you guys? Did you guys drive? Were cars a big deal in Simi Valley when you were teenagers?
Oh,
For you guys?
We drove, what I see today is kids driving pretty new stuff. When we drove, you inherited your dad's clunker, or you had to work to get your own. Right, girls?
Yeah.
yes.
And with
Yeah.
all of you, with so many, and there were 7 boys and 6 girls.
Right.
Yeah.
But like I said,
Did you
we didn't
share?
all-
Did you share a car?
The girls shared a car.
Yeah.
The Nova
Girls showed a
Station
car, yeah.
It was a family car with a Nova station wagon, and we all got our licenses a year apart. So Mary drove, and then but the thing is that by the time Frances got into driving, Mary was in college now, and
Yeah.
so she had her own little car. So, you know, one would go out and have another one.
Yeah.
And you said
Yeah.
something about cruising. Was there a cruise route? Was that part of your teenage life, cruising?
Well,
Kind
my
of. Once
pretty
we
strict. They didn't let us go out cruising. We did go cruising. We'd sneak out and go cruising, but but that was later on, later teen years.
Was that LA Avenue?
No.
No.
Here in Simí, I mean, there in Simí, you would drive down Ashland Avenue, you know, just in front of my Uncle Dean's store, you know, the one that's got the painting on the side of the building.
Oh, that was your uncle's store?
Yes, that was our Uncle Dean, yeah. And by the way, that painting, I don't even consider it historical because it was done in pretty recent history, but I guess it is now. But anyway, so like sometimes when my dad's little brother was visiting, he would take us in his car and we would just cruise nice and slow. Or other guys would be cruising by there. If you were from Moore Park and you came cruising through there could be trouble. Or if the guys from Simí would go cruising here in Moore Park, there could be trouble because there was a little bit of gang rivalry going on.
There was.
You know, we didn't really do a whole lot of that unless we snuck out with the sisters would go off with a, boyfriend's car or whatever.
Right.
And
But that wasn't really a part of Simi Valley cruising.
No,
really.
or the valley, the San Fernando Valley.
Uh-huh.
Van Nuys Boulevard and that kind of. Or what, Mary?
Some people who really wanted to cruise would go to Oxnard.
Oh,
They'd
yeah.
go down, like Saviors and and like she said, that little area in Simi Valley, that first quadrant we told you about between 4th and what is it, 5th and what was that?
Ashland.
The one between LA Avenue. Yeah, 1st and 5th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1st and 5th, LA
there was-
Avenue in Ventura.
Yeah, but we like somebody, I don't know who mentioned, our parents were rather strict and they didn't just let us go wherever we wanted to. They had we were also very involved in the church, and we went to their youth group, in the St. Rosa Lima Church.
Mm-hmm.
And so those were our outings, a lot of the outings. I remember I belonged to a club, and then we belonged to their choir, the church choir, and we go to
The other thing that kept us busy was you mentioned the club choir. You mentioned the choir, Mary. There was something else that I just thought of right now, and it just slipped my mind. I'll bring it back in.
Cairo Club? No.
I can't remember.
What's Cairo Club?
It was a Catholic youth club,
group.
and it was youth group. Yes, we'd have activities, and we sold Christmas trees one year. I remember for the Christmas time, we'd have like teenage evenings or whatever, and they were supervised by the Knights of Columbus.
Lame.
Yeah, they were boring.
Yeah. But but if you were going to go anywhere, our parents were strict, so they would let us go to these things. At least you saw some of your friends there.
Right.
So we got to do things, and they try to provide a full life for us. But they wanted to control. I mean, you have to remember the first 4 were girls, so they had their hands full, and so they didn't want us to get bored and start doing things that we shouldn't. So they did try to provide for us fun things, and we helped out with a church carnival and this and that.
And we also got involved, like both Frances and I were in drama. So,
Emily.
So
in school?
In school. Yeah. So we would be in the play, or we'd go to the drama festivals or whatever. So those were our outings. Those were the permissible outings, because just going out and hanging out, we weren't allowed to do that at all. Whoops, my battery's dying.
Uh-oh.
Plug in. Yeah, and also we also had little odd jobs that we would do. Mary, remember when you worked at the restaurant in the department store called Grant's?
Yes.
Oh yeah. And department store. Yeah. Yeah. That was worked as a waitress.
I stole so much of her change from her tips. I stole so much.
I don't
The
know
truth
about
comes
all of you, all of the rest of my siblings. I'm pretty sure everybody got a job when you were the age to get a job. I got a job when I was 15 and a half.
If you're going to drive, you need a job. Yeah.
So everybody worked, and my brothers worked even younger than 15. Some of them were 13 when my dad was injured. My brothers went to work, and one of them was 13. He was working as a dishwasher.
So what were your first jobs?
My first job was at Gino's. It was a hamburger joint that they opened up. And that was, gosh, that was in 12th grade. Oh, you know what? That was my first like cool job. The rest of the time we babysat, and we could make, we babysat a lot, other people's
Yeah.
kids. And then in the summertime, there was a orange packing house in Somis, the Tapo citrus packing, and we worked there in the summer. Once you turned 15 and a half, you could work there.
Yeah.
And so it was just a summer job, but it was a full-time job, and that paid for our, with any school clothes you wanted. If you wanted a yearbook, a class ring, anything like that, you had to earn your own money. So we all worked, but we started babysitting. As soon as you turned 13, you could babysit.
That's right.
50 cents an hour, by the way.
We also did little odd jobs for Mrs. Montgomery because she was an aging woman.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think we all did some house cleaning for her and other stuff like that. Gardening.
What about you, Mary? What was your first job?
Liz said, we did a lot of babysitting, and when I was in the junior high, I used to go to Mrs. Montgomery's house, my dad's boss, and I would do some light cleaning for her, dusting and vacuuming. So I did that for a few years up until I graduated from high school, I think. And then my first real job was at that packing house. Can you guys hear me? Because sometimes I hear
Somis.
kind of the in Somis. That was it was the same packing house that moved from Simí Valley to Somis. It was in Simí Valley at first. So that was my first job, and then that was a summer job. And then when I was in a senior in high school, I was a waitress at that Grant's restaurant. It was a Grant department store, and they had a restaurant. So
Where was that?
My first job. That was on, where
Larwin Square.
Old Larwin Square.
Yeah, but what's that now, Mary? What is it now?
What is it? The Townsgate, or what is it called, Clarisa?
Yes, it's now the Mountain Gate Mountain Gate Plus? Yeah. But where was Grant's located? Was it located where Simí Valley Marketplace is now, or?
Yeah, it was
like the 99-cent store area.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
What about you, Clarissa? What was your first job?
Well, my first real job was I used to babysit, so I think between the age of 8 and 9 was my first paying babysitting job for my sister's kids. But my first real job was working at Foster's Freeze in Simí Valley.
Oh, good.
Yeah, on Royal Avenue.
Royal.
Yeah, I was 15 and a half because you had to be 15 and a half to get a work permit. So I went the next day as soon as I could be 15 and a half and applied and got the job and worked there for a couple of years. But prior to that, I had actually gone to work as a volunteer at the hospital, at Simí Hospital. When I was 13. So I got work experience and high school credits. High school credits. We had to do service hours in my high school.
How did you guys get around on your own? Were you walkers, or did you ride bikes when you didn't have a car? Was there a lot of walking, or?
Well, babysitting, the people would pick you up, even some house cleaning jobs, because we would clean houses too. I know I did. And sometimes the lady would come and pick you up to go clean her house, so.
Yeah.
But we would walk to Mrs. Montgomery's,
Yeah, Mrs. Montgomery's was just a quarter of a mile up the road. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
sometimes I'd walk to Grant's, because Grant's was just down the road,
Yeah.
I think by then we were living on the corner of
First Street and
Cochrane, Green Cochrane. By then we were living in that
Yeah.
area.
Where the William Morris Chevrolet is in Simí.
Okay.
There was a house there, and when they tore down our house in the ranch, because they came in and put a development in their housing development, we moved while my parents found a house to buy, their first and only house they ever bought. But we lived on First Street in Cochrane for 1 year, and Mary would walk, and then we would run down there to go visit Mary. She'd buy us lunch with her tips that Francis didn't steal. Yeah. But babysitting and house cleaning, I mean, I think I babysat all the way up till I got my job at Gino's in 12th grade, because that's, and those times, by then we had access to the car. So if, everybody had a job, you're dropping people off and somebody's swinging by. So Mary, when Mary left to college, it kind of opened up. We both had the Nova, didn't we, Francis?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We shared a station wagon, the old station wagon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My first real job was, well, I also worked at the packing house, but my first real job was at Taco Bell.
Yeah.
And I trained at the one in what used to be Santa Susana, but then I went to work for the one that's on LA Avenue, which is now some kind of it was right next door to the Kentucky Fried Chicken, I think. It's not there anymore, but
Is the building still there?
the building is, and I think it's a Chinese Wok or something like that building, or eatery, I'm not sure. Is it?
Taco Bell was on the same side as McDonald's.
No, Taco Bell was right next door to,
Foodland?
no, right next door, well, now it is, but Taco Bell used to be right next door to Kentucky Fried Chicken, wherever that is anymore.
On the McDonald's side,
On the
yes.
same- on the
McDonald's
same
side, yeah.
Yeah, on the McDonald's side.
Yeah, and that building is now, I think it's called like you said, like China Walk or
Yeah. something like
China
that.
Bowl or Panda Bowl, I think. Panda Bowl.
So we have about a half an hour left on this time slot for this first interview. Do you guys want to talk about how your family spent, how you guys spent summer breaks, or do you want to talk about holidays?
Well, summer breaks, we worked.
We worked, yeah.
And we just worked. I mean,
Yeah.
and when we were when Mary started working at the packing house, I think, did Bertha start at the same year you did, Mary?
No, because that's when she went to France. Remember
yeah.
that was the year she.
So
I think.
Bertha got to go to France in 1969 when she was in 11th grade, I think, the summer. So she got to take off. And
Was that
we
a
did-
school trip?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she got to go to France for 6 weeks. And I don't know how she managed that, but she did. Scholarship or something. But she got to go.
Yeah.
I didn't get to do anything, not even prom, because I was a bad girl. I picked the wrong boyfriend. But when my mom would work in the summer, my mom didn't work. She always stayed home, except for the Walnut Grove and the picking and stuff.
Odd jobs.
She'd sew clothes for people
And sometimes some house cleaning on the job. I mean, on
yeah.
the side. Yeah.
Yes, because when I was a little girl, she cleaned somebody's house so I could have ballet lessons and tap dance lessons. And she did things like that. Like she would work so that we could have, like you guys could have violin lessons and things like that. Did odd jobs. But each of us took turns taking over the kitchen. So when my mom would go to work in the summer, Mary went to work for at that packing house. And the following year, Bertha got to go. And then the third year, then I got to go and work for the summer. And you could make some decent money for your senior year and get your yearbook and all that stuff, class ring. And so it was my turn to man the kitchen. And then the following year, it was Francis's year to man the kitchen. And you were in charge of making the meals and, running the house while Dad worked and my mom was working for the summer.
Mm-hmm. So my mom would work in the summers and which kind of is a segue into the holidays. I don't know about you girls, but my absolute favorite time of the year was Christmas.
Yeah.
Yep.
My mother always made Christmas super
Very
special.
special.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me about your Christmases.
Well, it was a mixture of Mexican and American tradition, you know.
Right.
Like we would do like
Posada.
up until we would do the posadas. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. The posadas are 9 days before Christmas. We would start this little. We would do the reenactment of Joseph and Mary going door to door in Bethlehem asking for a place to stay, because Mary was pregnant with Jesus.
And it was all in song.
Yeah.
It was all sung. It was all sung. She taught us all the songs in Spanish. And actually, she started doing this when we were quite little, because I remember that the last night before Christmas, on Christmas Eve, when we invited a bunch of other people, she would dress us up as angels, and she would make wings for us.
Yeah, out of cardboard.
So
crepe paper.
out of card, yeah. And we invited throughout the years, we invited friends over for the posadas, and they it always started with prayer. We always prayed first, and then we would do the. I think she would pray that we would pray the rosary first, you know, because we were Catholics, and then we would go around and we would take turns. Two people would carry, I guess, the statues of Mary, or did we had statues? Didn't we do?
We had
pretty much, yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. We did.
Backyard.
I still have them.
And so we would, and we would sing the song like "Please Let Us In," but it went to song. You know, it was a song. We just sung it, you know. Yeah. And then the people, and then we'd go to the different doors in the room, and somebody would stand there and respond to us, "No, you can't come in. The inn is full," or something like that.
Yeah.
And then after you do that for a while, and then you said, "Come in," you know, and then there was a little sing song, "Come in and go."
Entren santos peregrinos, peregrinos.
But first you forgot. Ya se va María,
Muy desconsolada, porque en esta casa
no le
están posada.
And so then would come the goodies part, and they'd start throwing candies and everything. And most of the time we'd also have a piñata, which we would make the piñata because you know we didn't. Yeah, we would make the piñata and we'd fill it up with whatever we had.
Oranges,
peanuts,
walnuts.
Walnuts. If we had candy, we'd throw it in there.
Okay, and where did the candy come from? So much of the candy that was in the piñata was stored. She would take our Halloween trick-or-treat candy,
Right.
stash it away, and then we'd find it in the piñata. By the way, just want to insert something into that. One of the most tender memories that I have of our mother making Christmas so special was one of those nights when we were going to break the piñata. We didn't have one. So she took a clay pot that she used to boil her beans in. And it was like, I remember this pot when I was a very little girl.
Yeah.
And what she did was she glued little streamers she made a paste with flour and water, glued streamers on it, filled it up with candy, and that's what we used to break. That's what she used as a piñata. It was so sweet.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, people.
That's her. Oh.
And we did this for 9 days before Christmas, and then the grand finale was Christmas Eve when the baby Jesus was born, you know, and by then relatives were there, and it was just, and then tamales and everything, and all the food. But we would start having this like 9 days before Christmas, and we'd even invite our friends. I remember my friend Jean Leggett. One time when they blindfolded her to hit the piñata, she hit my mom on the head with a stick. She didn't mean to. We were excited about it. It was her turn to swing the stick for the piñata. It wasn't a bat though, but it was.
It didn't wait.
Yeah. She started hitting my mom. Yeah, it was the broomstick, I think.
Yeah. Christmas was really memorable, and then by the time we moved to Parkhurst, it had become not just a family thing, but all these kids in the neighborhood and my brothers and their little friends and stuff. So it was chaotic, but they loved it.
Yeah.
And we went up and down the street. Remember, we'd go with the candles and everything.
That's right.
Yeah.
And even
Yeah, we didn't do Santa Claus and stuff. It was
Yeah.
always this tradition.
Yeah.
So we didn't really grow up with Santa Claus.
Well,
Not that we,
Yeah.
my dad would say after we did the posada, sometimes he goes, "You better go to bed or Santa Claus isn't going to come." And I thought, you know what? Somehow he always misses our house. 'Cause I'm so sorry.
Well, we only had a potbelly stove in the ranch, and so it was just, yeah.
Yeah, he convinced us that he couldn't fit through the chimney of the potbelly stove. That was the only heater. And so that's why Santa Claus didn't come to our house. So we're just not gonna go there. I thought, all right.
You
Yeah.
know, one remember, I don't know if you girls remember this, but when I was maybe second or third grade, and my dad was in a really bad car accident one year, and he almost died.
1959. Yes.
Yes, and so I got a letter like maybe a few weeks before Christmas from Santa Claus of all things. And the letter was actually addressed to all of the children, but it was mailed to me, and I was to share this information with the rest of the children. So by then I think we were 7, because Nora was the baby at that time, I think.
Yeah.
Nora was.
Gosh, I was so cute then.
Yeah. So Santa Claus told me that he was really keeping an eye on us and making sure that we were behaving and this and that, what Santa is supposed to do. And he said, and you will get a big surprise for Christmas. And my parents were really stressing that at this time, unbeknownst to us, because my dad didn't have a job. He was in bed at home and everything. And people were, there were a lot of generous people who were helping us, but relatives and everything, but still. So anyway, about a week before Christmas, I got another letter from Santa Claus, and he said that he goes, "I have seen that you have really behaved, and you're going to be so surprised, and this and that." So comes Christmas Eve, or a couple of days before Christmas, somebody came to the door, and they delivered tons of packages, tons. I want to say all kinds of stuff, toys.
Oh, that's right. I do remember that. Yeah.
Toys, and I think it was the American Legion,
Yes.
the American Legion, or I think it was them because they used to. Huh? No,
The Rotary was later. The Rotary was later.
Wasn't because the American Legion used to make this big Christmas party every year, and we'd always get invited to it. And they just gave us so many things, and my dad and my mom were just crying and crying. I just remember them crying because they were just like, oh, they were going, oh my gosh, and our children did get a good Christmas after all. So we got dolls and all kinds of, there were toys for all the kids, and all of us got about 5 toys, I think. It was tons of stuff.
Yeah, because we didn't have toys. We our toys were like farm equipment, whatever. And then my dad would take us to the dump. If we put in the yard and picked up the mess that we made and stuff, he would take us to the dump, and we could pick out a toy at the dump.
That was a treat.
That was a big treat. I loved the dump because people threw away good stuff. But going back to Christmas, I remember another time my dad, when the Rotary Club Christmas party, they invited us to go, and I really wanted to believe in Santa Claus because I wanted to get presents. And you go back to school after 2 weeks, and everybody's showing you their new doll and their new sweater, and we're like, okay, why does he keep missing the house, and why do we have to? I just wanted to believe in Santa Claus so bad, because if you did, then you'd get presents, and we didn't believe in Santa Claus. So one year, they told us that they were going to take us to this party with the Rotary Club and serve us lunch and whatever. And I prayed and prayed, please, Santa Claus, I want a jump rope. I really wanted a jump rope with red handles. And so you go and sit on Santa Claus's lap at this Christmas party, and they handed you a little gift. And so he hands me this little gift, and guess what I got? A jump rope with red handles. It just worked out that way. And that's it. I believe in Santa Claus, and I'm going to keep believing in Santa Claus. My mom would say, no, it's not Santa. I'm like, no, I got a jump rope. He's real.
And by the way, when it comes, go ahead.
They did give us gifts, our parents, but they would give us a lot of practical things, you know.
Yeah.
And I remember one year they did give us dolls, but
Yes,
they'd give us like wear socks and
yeah.
a purse. But when we started using purses and things like that, they would give us practical things.
And, godparents were good for Christmas too, because we always got presents from godparents and other relatives.
Right.
By the way, another thing that made it really special to be where we were at, as far as financially, I guess, is that a lot of times we would just come home from church or from being out or whatever, and there'd be boxes of stuff on our doorstep, sometimes dressers full of stuff. And so we were always getting people's discards, which were very nice discards, and we loved it.
Nice.
At Christmas over, yeah.
Did you guys celebrate Halloween?
Yeah,
Oh,
we went
yeah.
trick or treat.
What was
We did,
Halloween like in Simi Valley?
Yeah.
Everybody would, we would go to Simí, to that quadrant area, and we would trick or treat there. But I don't know why my dad, every time we wanted to go trick or treating, he'd say, I don't know if we can. I don't know if we can. And then the last, we'd be all in our little stupid costumes, just rags out of the garage and, makeup or whatever. Okay, pile in. And then he would take us. So it was pretty safe. We would stay together as a group, and we would meet up with a cousin or two over there, Tonieta. And we would just walk all the streets there in that old section of Simí and do our trick or treating. And then we would meet back at my tia's house, where my dad would hang out until we were done.
Yeah. That was
Yeah. And if any of us ever had a costume, it's because we got one out of a box of discards. But usually it was just, my mom had boxes of rags in the garage and stuff like that. So we would make our own costumes.
Yeah.
What kind of costumes did you make?
Well, I like being a hobo. I don't know about you girls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were
Loved being a hobo. Yeah.
And
Hobos.
I used to like
I was a gypsy all the time.
Oh, gypsy.
Yeah. I remember one year my mom found a coonskin cap. I was in the first grade, I think.
Davy Crockett was big in those days.
Yeah, and she put my hair in a ponytail and tied it to the hat. And we had a parade at Simí Elementary, and so there I was. And so our teacher, I don't know if I told you the last time we talked that my first grade teacher she didn't like the Mexicans. She just did. She was mean. And and she made me line up with the boys.
Oh,
And
yeah, I
said,
remember.
I'm a girl. And then she said, no, you're a boy. And so she put me in the line with the boys because I was dressed as Davy Crockett. And I cried and cried.
Oh.
Mrs. Nielsen, I'll never forget her.
I was Red Riding Hood. Sometimes my mother would sew a little thing or two for us. So, that was pretty special.
Hood was another one,
But our parents didn't do, like we said, go ahead, Mary.
No, I said I wore the dress I wore to my madrina's birth when she got married, my tia Pelona.
Oh, yeah.
And I wore that in kindergarten, and I was supposed to be Cinderella, so I wore the wedding dress that I wore as a flower.
Oh, how cute! But we didn't do Dia de los Muertos though. Like I think you'd mentioned that before.
Yeah, no.
I don't remember anything about that. We just
never did.
Halloween. In fact, I remember my very first Halloween. Maybe because it was a rainy night or something. But we had some other relatives over, and each of them would go behind a door, and we dressed up in our costumes, and we were in our little house, and we would just walk around, knock on each door, and they would pass candy to us. Do you remember that, Mary Chavez?
I do.
So,
I don't know if it was because it was a rainy night, but I remember. I think Tia Pelona was there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And she used. She was there because she used to say "triki triki." I remember.
Triki triki or triki traka. Yeah. Yeah. So that was my first memory of Halloween, but I don't remember anything about skeletons, Dia de los Muertos, or whatever like that, And we were pretty much raised in the Mexican culture, but that wasn't
my mom didn't like that. She really didn't like things like ghouls and skeletons and skulls and things like that. She didn't let us have, at least when I was when it was my turn.
Yeah, that wasn't her thing.
We got to dress up in fun costumes and go get candy.
Good for her.
There's a cemetery, the old Pioneer Cemetery in Simí Valley in that quadrant. Is that where your family's buried?
Several
Some
Several family members,
yeah.
not our parents.
relatives and friends, yeah. We have our little
Our
sister there. My paternal grandfather is there. And our little sister and other relatives.
Where are your parents buried?
Assumption Cemetery.
Assumption, but also in Simí Valley.
Yeah.
Did you
Yes.
spend time as kids visiting the cemeteries?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
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 Uh-huh.
Yeah.
We
What
went
was
to a
that
lot-
like for you?
Yes.
That's
We went to-
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
We went
was-
to a lot
like
of
cemeteries.
funerals and, you know.
We went to a lot of funerals. In the Mexican culture, the children go to the funeral. You know that
Mhm.
it's just
Wait.
it's just the way it is. Yeah. So we knew that there's death is as natural as life. You know.
Yeah.
You know, one day you're born and one day you die, and so
Yeah.
we were always included in those. You know.
Right.
So we did.
Yep.
When I was in high school, my senior year, we lost a classmate, and we're all 18 now, 18 years old. And I would say maybe one other person had been to a funeral before. So I had been to funerals all my life since I was a
Oh.
baby. And when we had her funeral, everybody was just like in shock, and that this was their first funeral. And I was like, this is like normal.
Yeah.
That wasn't it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Never.
And so I've also tried, because of that, I've exposed my children to death
Me
as
too.
much as I can, because they need to know about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Us too.
It's less traumatic later on. If you wait, then it becomes more traumatic, right?
Yeah.
Right.
It
Yes.
was natural.
Uh-huh.
Well, this is going to cut us off pretty quick here.
Okay.
I'm gonna pause us, and